We're going to be talking about the three brains. The brain, you're in your head, your heart, and your gut. And these three areas of your body are pretty central to keeping you alive.
Well, first, why do we call them the three brains?
So we used to kind of think of the brain as the focal point and that all of our processes happened from our brain and that it was kind of in control of every other bodily function. But this has kind of been deemed more and more incorrect because we've realized that the other parts of our bodies, such as like our heart and our gut, are really crucial for regulating their own things. Like the gut has so much microbiome, and that's where we produce a lot of our hormones. And that's also where we feel our emotions as well, is through the gut, not through the brain. So the brain is more of the automatic processing and very logical and tells us how to think. But our gut is basically all of the feelings that we feel is through our gut and not through our brain. So that's why I kind of call it a brain, because it has some sort of intelligence of its own. Like it's not just there being controlled by the brain. It actually controls, the gut actually controls the brain in a lot of ways.
Is control the right word, or is it just like sending information?
Sending information, but that then can overturn some of the brain's processes, like anger or sadness or happiness, you know, those signals that we interpret through like our eyes and through stimulus that has to travel through our brain, but our like executive function, so how we process what has just happened to us, also is combined with the emotions that we've felt in our gut. And it kind of comes together through multiple processes. It's not just like, oh, our brain experiences all these things and therefore that's what we're going off. And then the heart is also explained as a brain because the heart sends a lot of signals to the brain as well. So the heart itself has the largest electromagnetic field, but there's more messages coming from the heart to the brain than there is the brain to the heart. So the heart has so many neurons that also affect how we're interpreting a situation or the feelings in our body. Comes from the heart, not the brain's interpretation. Yeah, because our heart has so many, like a whole neural brain network within it that it's kind of controlling and regulating itself and has intelligence as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like one big nerve that kind of connects all these things together, which a lot of our hormones and nerve communications happens through, which is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve goes through all of our vital organs and controls like our breathing, it helps with our circadian rhythm, our thermoregulation, like controls all of that kind of thing. And it's the link between these things that enables them to like be interconnected. It's kind of like the highway path of communication.
For a long time, I thought that the brain was the one controlling everything, but it seems like that the heart and the gut, and I feel like other organs as well, they are more informing the brain of what's going on in the body. And the brain's just like the place where all the information goes to be processed.
Yeah.
And to be like redistributed and to coordinate everything. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily in charge as much as when it comes to, like you were talking about bodily functions, like the gut's sending a lot of neurotransmitters, then the brain is sending down. And I mean, it really goes into how important your diet is. What does it say? 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut.
Yeah.
Like 95%. That is insane.
Yeah. Well, like our oxytocin as well. But all of that comes back to like our feelings and our emotions too, is why we feel things in our gut. Like we might have like a gut reaction or like feel disgust or feel real ecstatic happiness, or even like intuition, which is the thing that's caused by like influxes or like a decrease in serotonin to tell us like what to do things. So it's actually like our gut is actually creating some decisions because it's controlling the levels of hormones we have, which tells us how to feel. And it's feeling in there, like it's not in our head. It's like a feeling of in the body. And then we decide what to do with it using that feeling, but also using our like logic and reasoning of the brain too. So it's like a real combination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intuition is linked to influxes of serotonin in the gut feeling.
Yeah.
Interesting. The idea that like your gut feeling or your first instinct is usually the correct one when it comes to like things happening and you having like intuition. Which is interesting because the only perception the gut has is what information is coming from the brain, but largely from, you know, the things you put in it.
But also it comes from like the heart too. So it's like, how is the heart responding?
So the gut and
to
the heart
something?
are linked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these three things are by the vagus nerve. So your heart might start to accelerate, and that information as well is sending to the gut to make a decision.
Yeah.
So why that kind of happens is because, like, back to survival times, like flight or fight, you need to make a decision that's not based on like logic and reasoning and like a full process of thought. It's just like reaction, like instant reaction,
Yeah.
which is based on feeling.
Yeah. So you can like run away quickly if you need to.
Yeah.
The reason they would be linked together is like if the brain perceives a threat through like your eyes or whatever, and it can send a signal to your heart to pump faster, to get more blood, and for your gut to stop digesting food and even get rid of it so that all the blood can go to your muscles so you can run away.
Yeah.
Or fight or whatever the case is.
Then there's like this other theory of like brain heart coherence, and that because your heart produces like a really strong electromagnetic field, that it's somehow perceiving the world around you as well. So obviously this is like early research, but they know that it produces a field that's larger than your brain. So there's like an idea that contact with like other stimuluses that have an electromagnetic field or like energy or like vibration, that your heart can feel that and interpret it.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that thing of like your heart has more communication going from your heart to your brain than your brain to your heart. So your heart is sending your brain information about what you should be thinking, how you should be feeling, how you're interpreting events. And a lot of it is said to happen, a lot of it now is being thought to think that what you're coming into contact with has a direct impact on the feelings that your heart is processing and how it's beating.
It's interesting to think about, like, as soon as you said it has an electromagnetic field and it interacts with other things. Like in physics, you look at like the magnetic fields of like magnets, for example, and how they interact with other things.
Yeah.
And when you're close to another person, the magnetic field of your heart would be interacting with theirs. And it kind of goes along with the unifying field of love that we've been talking about. And also it'd be interesting to know like the field that your heart interacts on versus your brain, because they kind of described it as like an antenna
Yeah.
to pick up like thoughts and all of these things rather than like a thought production factory.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting the difference and where your brain is pulling things from.
Yeah.
And where your heart, like what impacts the field of your heart as well. Because that could even come down to like, it could interact with the gravity of Earth and the moon and like full moons and all that type of stuff, like the pull of the Earth. And
yeah, well, anything that's putting out a signal of like electromagnetic field can be affected.
your phone.
Yeah. So all these kind of signals.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And like there's not that much research on it at the moment just because it's like so new and we've only just worked out how to actually measure these kind of things. So like it's new stuff, but it's really interesting to see where it's going. And it makes sense when you start to think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I know like Joe Dispenza talks about meditations for heart and brain coherence, because if you can kind of align like the electromagnetic frequency of your heart with the electromagnetic frequency of your brain, you're in a more coherent, like energy kind of saving, kind of like homeostasis, equilibrium state.
Yeah.
Where it means like functioning just normally is easier.
Is that what
they're
flow
not
is?
opposing each other? I'm not sure. I mean, it could be, you could think about it like that. Yeah, because it would make sense when your body is just all in unison.
Yeah. Like you're not in your own way, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's like meditations to try and make the brain and the heart coherent. And he's doing studies at the moment to try and figure out like how that affects the world and other people around that are also meditating at the same time, which is going to be interesting, like figure out how that goes.
I think it'd be useful to go back and explain what electromagnetism is for people who don't know. So I learned it in physics, and this is where it kind of all started to link together for me, like in physics and the study of waves and magnetism and all that. So basically, electromagnetism is when there is an electric current, that electric current produces an electric field or a magnetic field around the direction of current flow. So neurons basically use electricity. And so that electricity is very, very small compared to like the wires that are in your house or even in your phone or whatever. But it exists. And so there's a proportional magnetic field that is emitted from that electrical pulse. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Like the neurons fire in your brain and in your heart and in your gut and even all around your body to like send messages. And when that happens, it creates a magnetic field. And so, little physics lesson, this is kind of how you charge batteries or how batteries work through induction. The magnetic fields interact and the magnetic fields can induce an electrical current. So the fields interacting can actually influence where the current is flowing in your body, which is how that interaction works. Like the electricity that flows in your body can be manipulated by someone else's electricity by way of like your magnetic fields interacting.
Yeah. And it comes back to like there's issues of electromagnetic fields with your phone and stuff, which means like Italy at the moment is having fights with Apple because of the radiation emitted from like the new iPhones, and they're above their like health.
I think France is too.
Yeah, having these issues because they violate the European standards for like what a healthy amount of radiation is for our bodies. So these things like have huge impacts on us, and we're kind of at the moment researching how they can impact us and what the extent of the effects are, which is unknown yet.
Yeah.
But like it affects your hormones, it affects bodily functions.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but it's just not sure like how that manifests.
Yeah. What the
Implications of it are.
Yeah, how they turn out in your body. Because if you're exposed to a larger magnetic field than what your body produces, then that can really mess up or affect the electrical currents that are flowing through your body.
Yeah, every cell in your body produces action potentials, or every neuron. I think about like the brain, the heart, and the gut as real central parts of electromagnetic fields because they have the most communication between them. Therefore, like the most electricity is being produced there. So they're kind of like the hotspots of the body. And yeah, so this also, so it happens via these electromagnetic fields and frequencies, but like looking at it, you can measure it through hormone increases and like the actual neurotransmitters that are traveling through the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is also really important because inflammation there or stress there leaks to the brain, to the heart, to the gut. So it means like if one part of the system is wrong or like there's an issue happening,
Can throw everything out.
it can throw other things out and it affects the whole system and your whole body. That's kind of like why like inflammation or like the nervous system is so important, and like healthy gut microbiome because it influences each one of these systems. Yeah. So I was thinking maybe we could talk about some ways that we can help the vagus nerve so we can help each of the systems thrive. So this has been like known in traditional cultures for a long time and just part of it. But like humming and singing is a huge way to stimulate the vagus nerve because it promotes like vibration through it and along it. And basically just stimulating something causes more activation and therefore like more repair and growth. So yeah, like singing or humming or chanting is one way to help your nervous system and these three brains.
I think any vibration, really.
Yeah.
In a massage chair. That's what my brain wants straight.
Well, so the vagus nerve runs from your brain stem, your medulla, which is like the base of your brain or the kind of like the top part of your neck. It runs from there all the way into the base of your spinal cord. So like that's the path it's taking, and it goes, kind of through the back of your throat. So that's why singing and vibrating and humming, like why that helps. And it runs all through those vital systems. Another way that we can help the vagus nerve and these connections is like breath work and stimulating like long exhales because it just calms.
Well, it like aligns everything because like if you calm the system, the heart will beat in rhythm. It's like brain and heart coherence.
Yeah.
The heart beats in rhythm, the brain syncs, and the gut is relaxed, and like everything just aligns.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why vibration is so important because it's stable. Like if you're humming the same pitch, like you can be singing, but I think humming at one pitch really, and breathing at the same pace, like an even vibration, slow or fast, increases, I feel like, the effects of it. And just like, I don't know what the word is, the evenness is the key.
Well, it's like rhythm too, I think. And yeah, once you're in like rhythm, it helps, obviously it'll help your heart slow down, and that kind of sets the basis for everything too.
Yeah. So things that promote rhythm, like I think that's why running is really good because it's just
flow.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Singing, talking,
walking,
jumping, and then trying to avoid things that disrupt that rhythm. Like social media is just one thing after another. Everything is different all the time, and you have to you're always taking things in and you never really get into a rhythm. It just like
Yeah.
ruins you.
I was actually thinking about this because I was thinking at the moment I have like a huge list of like what I'm really finding interesting in psychology and potential routes for like if I'm to do an honours thesis or something, like different things that I'd be interested in exploring. And I was thinking this morning about how I wonder how your breathing and your heart rate is affected by social media. And it would be interesting to do a study of like, because we could determine whether it's just focused attention and like what focused attention on breathing and rhythm would do. And then we could compare that to time on social media. Because I feel like I hold my breath or I become like uncoherent, like incoherent when I'm on social media because I'm jumping from one thing to the next. It's constant new stimulus.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like I start to hold my breath because I always feel like after I put it down, I need to like breathe.
Freak it out, yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking it would be cool to do a study and assess like the extent of that. And if it's just like focused, is it just having focused attention? Like how does that change it?
Yeah.
Versus like being on social media or on a platform where the stimulus is constantly changing.
You know how I just linked it to the diet because like exercise and like physical movement is good, but how does it relate to like eating good food? And I kind of imagine like the energy curve of like fast food and fats and sugars is really sharp and steep, but good whole foods is slower and more even. And like that stability and kind of balance would be healthy. And so you like there are a bunch of other benefits, like you have more energy for longer and you can like all the good neurotransmitters and all that sort of stuff. But even just like the stability and energy expenditure is the wrong word, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I know what you
Like
mean.
just the balance and even vibration of that. And so,
yeah, I think that's interesting to think about like because we were talking the other day about how like fast food isn't filling and it's like if you eat something there's like it's basically trying to be addictive, so you want more of it, like the salts and the flavoring that they put on it suppresses your hunger urge and like makes you want more of it, so it's creating those spikes. And same with like high sugar content things that they just spike and you don't actually know like hunger is suppressed from it.
Yeah.
Because there's not much digestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget where I heard it, but I heard that like sugar like literally breaks your chromosomes in half and like can accelerate aging because of that or something along those lines. I'm obviously not saying it like perfectly.
What? There's like the tips on the ends of your DNA structure that are impacted by foods. I'm going to look it up to see what it's called. What's it called? Oh, telomeres. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, how long you live. Yeah. So like telomeres are the end parts of the DNA, which are like very susceptible to environmental factors or like basically just the things that you're inputting or ingesting in your body. Like your DNA is more stable than the parts at the ends of your DNA, which are the telomeres that are like very affected by everything that's going on in the body. So things like food and diet and even like exercise and like those kind of things promote and strengthen the telomeres. And telomere length is correlated to like longevity and how your body like withholds aging. It's like the repair mechanism needed for longevity. Yeah.
So like the longer the telomeres are, the better they can repair and build the DNA, or like the better they are.
It's kind of like the buffer between the DNA and the outside structure.
Like protection kind of?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like the myelin sheaths of neurons, but for DNA.
Yeah. I guess like the things you want to avoid is just anything that's going to happen unnaturally quickly. Like I think the manufactured processed sugars, large amounts of caffeine can like, these things on their own aren't necessarily bad, but if you're creating an influx of that greater than your body has the capacity to process, then I think it can do damage.
It's kind of once we like start stacking things into an uncontrollable level, then stuff starts to like go wrong because your body can't keep up with all the things that's being thrown at it.
Yeah.
Like social media and diet and negative thought cycles and like stress and all these things. It's just like you don't have to have everything perfect, but just doing some of the things will help.
Yeah. It goes back to like what we were talking about a few episodes ago of just not disrupting the balance of things. Like it's not even necessarily like the act of doing a quote unquote bad thing. It's just kind of everything in moderation even. Like as long as you're not pushing the boundaries, then you're probably going to be okay. Like if you have a sugary donut,
Yeah.
like if it's really sugary and it's really bad, then you have it once. It's probably okay. But if you have 12 of them every day, that's probably too much.
Yeah.
You know?
Body just can't handle it or process it and it starts to tear it down.
But I also want to talk about, I think it was yesterday, where the rats with cancer cells.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So there was this study based on resilience, and it was to see how juvenile rats would go when they're injected with cancer cells. When they were juveniles and throughout their development, they were given electric shots. Some of the rats, half of the rats, were able to escape these electric shocks, and then half of them just had nowhere to go. They were inescapable electric shocks. Then as they became to adults, the rats that had inescapable electric shocks were 2 times as likely to have cancer than the rats that were having shocks, but they were able to escape. So this kind of shows the impact of stress when you can't do anything about it and you have to like hold it within your body. There's no way around it.
The reason I brought it up and why I kind of think it's relevant now is because it's really not possible to be able to know what you're susceptible to. So if you're like risking it by smoking or eating a lot of donuts, then you could be flirting with, you know, the diseases that can manifest from those things like diabetes or cancer. And while I could smoke a pack a day for 30 years and not get cancer, you might not be able to. And so like everyone's tolerance or threshold is different.
Yeah.
And just because someone else you see can do it doesn't mean that you can as well.
Yeah, but it's also like shows the power of like the mind and like the automatic processes that occur, such as like, oh, I'm a rat and I'm getting shocked and there's nowhere for me to go. Like I have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's inescapable is like promoting stress. And stress is like, now we know like that stress is like number one killer of like all diseases. Like it's the manifestation of disease.
Yeah. Disease is the manifestation of dis-ease.
Yeah, dis-ease. Did you make that up?
I don't know where I got it from, but I definitely didn't make it up.
I was about to be like, what?
Yeah. No, I made it up. That's all me. Yeah.
That's all me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was like another study on humans with workers, and they were basically just like did a longitudinal study, and they worked out like these were all people that were seeing psychologists or had a frequent checkup of like stress, and they were marked based on a questionnaire of like how much stress they were having per week. So workers that were ticking the box for stress regularly were 5 times more likely to get colon cancer than their co-workers who did the same jobs and worked at the same places, but they didn't get colon cancer.
It's interesting that it's colon cancer in the gut as well. Like where 95% of your serotonin is produced. And if you're stressed for a significant amount of time, where that manifests. And it'd be interesting the different types of cancers and what they kind of correlated to. Obviously, there's like genetic predispositions to stuff, but what kind of stress can lead to what kind of cancer? Because there would be a link, and it would be kind of hard to figure it out as well.
It'd be interesting to see if there is a link. I'm not sure because I feel like...
Because were they at the same workplace as well, under the same kind of stress?
They were at the same workplace.
Which is interesting because they manifested the same.
Colon cancer. Yeah, same cancer. True.
Very interesting. Well, before we go back, I wanted to talk more about like how we were kind of trying to figure out how you would define an inescapable electric shock for us. Like in a lot of ways, like there are things in our lives that we can perceive as inescapable, but I feel like we're in control of a lot more than we think we are. Sometimes we're just scared to change. And even like, unfortunately, human nature, we are more propelled by the fear of something bad happening than we are to chase something good happening. So I feel like knowing that, it can, you know, kind of fire you up a little bit to move in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because these things can literally, like stress can literally kill you. Yeah. And trying to figure out like, what are my inescapable shocks that I'm facing? Sometimes there are stresses that come into your life, like someone dies or you have a breakup or, you know, some things that you can't change. Yeah. But what are the things that you actually can? You just might be a little bit too scared or don't believe that you can. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the time you can't change the situation or like the circumstance you're in, but you can change the framework that you're viewing it from. And the framework is like the most important thing, the outlook.
Whether you view it as inescapable or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your life literally depends on it. Like it does.
Yeah, well, it depends. It just means... there was actually another study about executives. They interviewed 200 executives and some of them were frequently very ill and very sick, and the others were like hardly ever sick, like never sick. Yeah, so the resilience study for the executives was by Kabasa in 1982. They all had the same education and the same backgrounds, like ethnicity, and came from like a very similar economic placement.
Yeah, they're all executives,
Yeah. But like also their upbringing was in like middle class.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had different attitudes towards their self, and those with attitudes towards self that was negative resulted in more sickness, and those that had attitudes towards self that was like very resilient and thought of themselves as very capable and able to like get through anything, which was labeled like hardiness. Those with hardiness never got sick.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely got sick.
And I think, I don't know how much more you have to say, but I think this ties back into like you aren't born with hardiness and you acquire that in a counterintuitive way. Like you acquire a positive attitude towards yourself by going through very difficult things. And
proving to yourself that you can do them.
Exactly. The belief comes after you do the work that is required. Like Alex Hormozy is a really popular quote that like blew up a couple of months ago. He said, you don't get self-confidence by shouting affirmations in the mirror. You get them by stacking undeniable evidence in favor of the fact that you are who you say you are. And I mean, that's so true. Like, a lot of people are running away from things because of a lack of value within themselves. They're trying to acquire something to fill a hole or, you know, something of that nature. And then there are other people who aren't necessarily. They're coming at it from a different perspective.
I also think it's like helpful to acknowledge that like these things don't just happen overnight either. It's not just like, oh, okay, like go pick up yourself and do everything that you say you're going to do. Like it's little by little, and it's like it stacks on it. Like it's kind of what you said. Yeah, it stacks on itself. So you do one thing, you prove to yourself you can do that. Okay, I can do the next thing. Like it's not, you don't just jump from 0 to 100. It's like little steps that prove to yourself that you're more capable of the next step, and then you do the next step. Like it's.
I would also add to that though that it happens a lot faster than you think.
Yeah, 100%.
And you don't have, like I was talking about this last night. You don't have to be at the goal that you have set. Just the fact that you are on the path to achieving the goal is everything. Yeah. Like you just have to be in the race.
Yeah.
Like that is, the goal is not to achieve the goal. The goal is to be in the race.
Yeah.
Like the goal of marriage is not to achieve marriage or get married. It's to stay married.
Yeah.
The goal of fitness is not to get fit. It's to stay fit. The goal of business is not to build a big business, but it's to stay in business. It's to keep going. Like,
longevity.
the goal of life is to live.
Yeah.
You know? It's not to die.
Yeah. I've done one day, okay, I'm good now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where all the satisfaction comes from.
Yeah.
And then your will to live is exponential and your horizons expand and you begin to, you know, build this positive cycle and the confidence builds within yourself and the excitement and the zest builds. And it's just, yeah. And it happens a lot faster than you think.
Yeah.
It's a good foundation, like a good place to start.
Yeah.
To acknowledge that those three things exist and how can you best support those, like your brain, your gut, your heart, rhythm, through good diet, through exercise, humming, singing, meditation, like all of these different things can move you in the right direction.
Yeah. Getting your three brains aligned.
I think just even equipped with the knowledge and leading with the intention. Like the intention's all you need.
Yeah.
Because everyone's life is different. Everyone's goals are different.
Yeah. Just becoming aware that like there's multiple parts of your body that are all trying to work in unison and paying attention to those things and putting in some time to practice things that create coherence between the brain, the heart, and the gut will be so beneficial to moving you forward and moving you on the path that you wish.
I think it's even easier to separate yourself from the stuff that just disrupts the rhythm. Like you don't have to necessarily do more of the other thing. If you can just strip back a little bit on the stuff that can do harm.
Yeah.
That can do more good than, and is easier in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to basics.
100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode or if you think it could be helpful for somebody else, please share it to them or make a review. That would be awesome and I would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day.
And thank you for nearly 1,500 all-time downloads. That's sick.
Ew, so exciting. Thank you so much. So grateful.
Love.
Much love.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
Peace.